Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Belalugosi in the 15-minute pool in ICC. Let's play a Scandinavian against Belalugosi. Haven't played this in 15-minute for a while, but as you might know, if you watch my channel regularly, this is my beloved defense against e4, the Scandinavian with queen a5, specifically on move 3. So why not play it? So after d4, I like playing c6 just to maintain maximum flexibility. It gives the queen a retreat square. I always meet knight f3 with knight f6. In the past, I've gone into reasons why I do that, but mainly it's so that if white develops the knight through e2, you don't have to develop your knight through f6. c6 is more of a necessary move than knight f6 is. So far, Bela Lugosi is following the main line. Bishop c4, now bishop f5. Yep, bishop d2, and black plays e6. So there are discoveries with this knight, which you have to get used to as a Scandinavian player, case in point. And yeah, he takes the
Check.
opportunity to play the discovery. Here there's two options, queen takes f6 and g takes f6. I played both. I like g takes f6 better, and I don't see that changing anytime soon because queen takes f6 actually leads to kind of a depressing position after queen e2. White can try for a quick d5 thereafter. G takes f6 is more dynamic despite entailing some structural damage. Okay, so bishop b3 is standard. He's defending this pawn. Knight h4 at this juncture is a bit early. Usually they play queen e2 first. I'm just going to drop the bishop back to g6 as normal. My opponent's playing pretty quick so far. Yeah, queen f3. So maybe he has a specific idea in mind. Often when people play queen f3 in this line, they're trying to transfer the queen over to h3. So I do wonder if he is up to that. Yeah, because transferring the queen to h3 would create a stronger threat of knight takes g6. My h-pawn would be pinned in that case, the hanging rook on h8. So it's a crafty little idea. Thinking about the best way to combat that. A lot of times when I face this type of idea, I'll play queen c7, queen h3, bishop g7, which looks odd, but the idea is to defend the rook. So I'm considering that. F5 is sometimes a move you can think about to hit the knight on h4 with your queen, but still queen h3 will be played. F5, queen h3, bishop g7 maybe, hitting the d4 pawn. I might end up castling kingside. I'm just kind of torn at this moment. Because queen c7 it would be like the autopilot move. Often the queen comes here in preparation for castling queenside. But he will play queen h3 against that, and then I'll be having to figure out what to do about this rook and the knight takes g6 threat. So maybe I should just play f5 right away. Yeah, let's do that. I know it looks really weird to lock in this bishop voluntarily, but oftentimes this bishop can emerge on h5 by playing knight f6 and then bishop h5. Let me check my opponent's stats real quick. They've played 20 games of 15-minute with a ratio of 13 wins, 7 losses. They have a 2,300 5-minute rating, though, so they must be pretty decent at that category. Strange that they would have a lower 15-minute than a 5-minute. Okay, so queen h3 was played. Let's stick the bishop on g7 as planned, hitting this pawn. I'm staying flexible with my queen at the same time. Yeah, probably white will not take on g6 for a while. They might hold that bishop hostage for a little bit and see if they can derive some benefit from just leaving it there. Now, I don't want to castle quite yet, I don't think. If I castle short, that might give them more of a reason to castle long. So I'm thinking now queen c7 makes sense. Looks like the right post for the queen, too. Another thing is maybe they can play g3 and try to go bishop f4 thereafter. Maybe I can consider bishop f6 to try to force the knight to do something. It's probably not a bad move. Knight f6 trying to come into e4 also comes to mind. Hmm. A5, maybe? Point of A5 would be to try to get them to play A4 so I could play queen B6 and hit that bishop. That would also be intriguing. A5 is weird, but I kind of like the look of it. I'm going to play it. This gives them something to think about on the queen side, too. In my mind, it makes sense when they've already committed like their queen over to the king side to maybe strike back on the other flank. It just looks like an irritating gesture, if not a real threat. A5, A4, possibly A3 even, to weaken their structure. I don't see anything pressing on the king side that I have to worry about. I mean, either they're going to take on G6 or they're just going to leave this and maybe even play like G3, knight G2, knight F4 is a common repositioning of the knight. But I'm not worried yet. Yeah, if A4, queen B6, in order to avoid losing the B2 pawn after the bishop retreats, they would have to play rook A3. But actually, that runs into maybe bishop F8. Although bishop F8, they can take on G6 when it gets messy. So, but nonetheless, I don't think they really want to put their rook on A3. So I would doubt that A4 is played. I think white will choose something, probably a castling move. I think they're going to commit their king to one wing or the other. I would bet that they go king side. That's what I would do if I were white, I think. Queen side, when black has this ready-made A4, A3, and he does go king side, but queen side would be risky. Okay, so now I can decide if I want to continue with A4 or if I just want to castle short myself. I think that's a more viable option than it was previously. I don't have to worry about getting attacked on the king side, so I'll do it now. Still keeping the A4 option open. He takes on G6, okay. We're definitely taking back this way. We got to maintain our structure here. No doubt about that. And then bishop H6. This seems a little optimistic to me. I mean, white's not going to get an attack out of this. I don't have to take that bishop. In fact, I should probably play A4 and just kick the bishop. Queen B6 is another move I could play. Again, trying to play A4. If Queen B6, probably they'll play rook AB1. Let's play A4. Attack that bishop. I would like for them to take on G7 versus me taking on H6. Because if that were to happen, then my king can take and my rook might come over to H8 pretty swiftly. So how do I encourage them to take? I could play G5. It's kind of weird. I think I'd rather keep my pawns on light squares, though. I have every single pawn on a light square. That's great as far as restricting their bishop. Repositioning the knight and trying to get it to D5 looks like a pretty good plan. But if I do it right away, like knight F6, they might play bishop G5 is the only thing. Maybe I go through B6. Maybe that's a better way to do it. Yeah, knight B6. And then I can even play around with the idea of knight C4. Let's play like that. We'll pre-move this capture. It'd be a little surprising if he moved the dark square bishop back after having put it in on H6 already. So I doubt we'll see that. B3 is played. Okay. Maybe now I'll play A3. I could take and open the A file. That also might be good. A takes B, knight D5. How about that? Whereupon I'm threatening bishop takes H6, queen takes H6, knight takes C3. So a takes b3, a takes b3, knight d5. Let's say rook takes a8, queen takes a8. I like that. I have the file. My queen might be able to infiltrate on a2. Let's do that. Bring this guy in. And once again, I'm trying to encourage them to take here. They might change their mind, like I said, but by the speed that this player is playing, I don't think they're considering the position too deeply, to be honest. They're just making a lot of committal decisions very quickly, like trading on a8, just giving me the file. Okay, so c4 attacks the knight. Just knight b4 looks good. Yeah, knight b4 is the most consistent. The only thing I have to watch out now is, like, let's say knight b4 and they take on g7, I take back. This queen at some point soon might come to c3. And then it would x-ray my king on g7. So it's the only thing I don't like about how this is playing out. I actually missed that idea, as you may have gathered. That could bring the knight back to f6. But then bishop g5, perhaps. But I don't know, I can still come into a2. Looks pretty good. If knight f6, bishop takes g7, king takes g7, there's still queen c3, though. And they might wrest control of the file away from me, with rook a1 being supported now. Well, that would be too bad if I have to settle for knight b4, bishop takes g7, king takes g7, queen c3, knight takes c2. I'd really hate to do that, but it might be best. Might have to settle for that. Okay, we're just going to do it. I think this is really the only consistent move, and yeah, unfortunately, it looks like I have to do it. Yeah. And now let's play queen a5. I was thinking about this idea. So just taking away the c3 square, they can play queen b2, but I think then I'll just move my king back. I'm still going to try to win this heavy piece endgame, so have no fear. It's going to be tough, though. There's no doubt. Rook d8 or rook a8. Rook d8 to try to hold up the d pawn looks best. Let's do that. So we've had mass simplifications. I think it's pretty much 0.00 to use a computer evaluation. I feel pretty comfortable because I like this pawn structure for black, but it's going to be difficult to attack this d4 pawn. He's probably going to play g3 and h4, probably king g2. I'm going to go queen b4. Let's get our queen in just a little bit deeper in the position. Maybe b5 is an option, trying to knock out the c4 pawn. Or maybe rook a8, rook a3 could be played down the line. Yeah, queen b2. Should I put the king on h7 or g8? Because they're threatening d5 with a discovered check. I could play e5 myself, but then they respond with d5. E5, nah, I don't think it's quite right for that move yet. Okay, let's go back to g8. He's got about a 2-to-1 time advantage, so we are going to have to play a little faster. I mean, maybe e5, but the thing is, they're gonna respond with d5. Is the only thing I don't like. I could do b5 now. That might be best. Yeah, actually, let's try b5. So trying to knock out this guy. He takes. Okay. Take with the queen or with the pawn? Let's take with the pawn. We'll keep a nice structure going on. h5. Again, instantly played. So this is a pawn sack. Okay, I don't really see the point. I guess they weaken my king a little bit, like queen e2 or d5 maybe. Queen e2 trying to come attack h5. I guess it makes some sense what they're doing. I can take on b3 if I want. I can also take on d4. If I take on d4, though, rook takes d4, queen takes d4, queen takes b5 could be played. And then they have a passed b pawn, although I am up a pawn on the other wing. This could be a mildly tough decision. And I've got 4 minutes to think about the rest of my moves. I mean, queen takes b3 is the move I want to play. But after queen takes h5, I'm just not quite sure about the position. Because then my king is way open. It's a very exposed king. Maybe h4 is decent, trying to weaken their structure. They could even play queen h5 still then, though. Okay, so I'm going to take on d4. I'm going to give them a chance to win my b pawn. But I'm going to see what I can cook up in that resulting position. This queen endgame. I mean, I will be up a pawn, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, now h4 maybe. Got to find a way to weaken their king a little bit. Maybe create some mating nets around their king, involving my advancing pawns. So if take, I can play queen g4 check, or I can take on h4. If I take on h4, they do have queen b8 check. And say king g7. They could trade queens with queen g3. But then I swap, I play king f6, and I'm within the square to stop this pawn. So I would win in that case. So I don't think they're going to do that. I don't know. This b pawn might be strong enough, though, where I have to just kind of go for a draw at some point. Unless I'm really able to create threats with my pawns very quickly. Maybe king g7 would have been a better way to start compared to h4. But they're going to play b4 quick, and if this pawn hits like the 5th or 6th rank, that's about when I have to start going for a perpetual on his king, because it'll be too strong. So now he's starting to think a little bit.
Check.
Gives a check. Okay. So king g7. Wow, queen f4. I don't think that's correct. Okay, so first of all, I can give a check on d1 and then go take b3. If I trade, I think his point is that he's going to win the h-pawn. And yeah, even though I can stop the b-pawn, I can get my king in the box. He'll win the h-pawn and win the game. So let's give a check here. First of all, if king g2, maybe queen d5 check first before taking. Because if I take on b3, I think queen g5 is just a perpetual. Queen g5, king f8, queen d8. I can't escape that perpetual. But if I give a check on d5 first, my queen's in a bit better of a position to defend. Also, it gives him a chance to go wrong, like king g2, queen d5.
Check.
If queen f3, I win after h3 check. Little trick. The only problem is, if I were to take on, like let's say, g3 on the next move, he can take with check and thereby defend his pawn. King h2, I wonder if h3 is any good. Probably not, but... So if I take here check, he takes with the queen. It's going to be so tough to win that position. Kind of got to try, though.
Check.
All right, we're going to try it. Let's see.
Check.
I feel like their king's open enough that I can always go for a perpetual if needed. Any danger in coming here? Probably not. We'll be bold. So if queen h8, probably king e4. I'm getting active with this king. Here's where I wish I had an increment. But it works both ways. I've won plenty of games where I'm pressuring my opponent on the clock when I felt like I was even worse in like an endgame.
Check.
I think king e4 is decent. Just double checking. King d6, they have a bunch of annoying checks. So yeah, let's try king e4.
Check.
Okay. f4 maybe? King d3? King d3 seems better. Let's do that. The king is super active now. b4, okay. So if I check here and then go take that pawn, queen d6, queen g3, trade, I can catch their pawn. Okay.
Check.
Let's do that. I don't know, they might just make a king move, though. One minute left. This is really risky. I don't want to be like thinking for half of my remaining time, and then regret not taking the draw earlier. Okay, let's just play f4. Cut their queen off from defending this pawn, so we're threatening to take it now. Bring this back. King is an attacking piece, right? Got to use it actively. f5, just cut off their queen from defending the pawn once again. This pawn mask comes in handy. I'm advancing it now and creating threats.
Check.
Okay, so we're within the vicinity of this pawn now. And he doesn't have any useful follow-up checks, like e3 is covered. Okay, just gets behind the pawn. Let's do this. We'll also get behind the pawn. So now I can play queen d5 and queen takes b5 pretty comfortably. If I can keep all of my remaining pawns defended, I'm going to have great winning chances. Absolutely. Okay, so maybe I put this pawn on f3 next, assuming that he comes... Well, he can't even really attack it in some way. But I'm not threatening queen takes b5. I guess that's the thing. Okay, maybe I'll play e5 next. I'll just get these pawns rolling. Yeah, let's do e5. Again, I want to take on b5, but only when I have everything defended. Okay, now we'll take queen c2, though. Yep. I see your point. I can come here. And if take, I have queen f2 check. Okay, that's key. I didn't see that. It took me a little time to find it. 32 seconds. Can I pull this off? It's going to be tough,
Check.
guys. It's going to be very tough. Yeah, I'm going to need a million moves to win this game. If it's indeed a win anyways. He's being active with his queen. You could check d7, though.
Check. Time.
Yeah. Looks like it's not going to happen. Maybe I can get my king in to e3. Queen f2.
Check. Check.
Hoping he checks me so I can go queen d2.
Check. Check. Check.
I'm going to offer a draw and see if they take it.
Draw.
Check. Check.
Guess he's going to try to go for the flag.
Check. Check.
All right. It's going to be a draw. Well, that's a shame.
Draw.
Yeah, that's a shame. I feel like I could have won that ending with more time, for sure, but yeah, no delay, no increment. It's really rough. I don't know. I think even though I lost the f pawn towards the end, like my king got really active. It might have been winning like right around here after queen h3. I bet there's some way to do this. Maybe even e4, f takes e4, f3. Just sack a pawn. And I'm threatening queen g2 check after that. Let me just see what the computer says. King e3. Yeah, because now he needs his king and his queen on exactly those squares to defend. So it might be a win. Yeah, I think pretty clearly this guy was better than his rating. I'll just show you guys. It's kind of weird that you hardly ever see this. So he's got a 2300 5-minute rating, but I mean now a 1800 15-minute rating. Hasn't played that many games, but okay, let's go back and take a look. So this was all mainline Scandinavian up till the point that he played like queen f3, trying to swing the queen over to h3. It's an interesting idea. I think I responded pretty well. Putting the bishop on g7 locks in the light square bishop, but you do defend the rook on h8. So c3, yep, a5, the computer approves. We both castle short. He takes. I'm pretty comfortable with this structure. I mean, the engine claims an edge for white, but I'm completely fine playing this for black. I think the engine mainly likes white's bishop pair plus space advantage, but having been in this situation many times before, I think that's a little overrated for white. Bishop h6 to me doesn't make much sense. I don't think he really wants to trade bishops because that's probably his better bishop. His light square bishop is so restricted by my pawns. So here I should take, according to the computer, and then play knight f6. Yeah, because the way I did it, like trying to get him to take on g7, eventually the queen was able to come over to c3, and that like stopped any pretensions I had for gaining an advantage with the knight versus the bishop. taking on b3. I thought this was good for me, but maybe it's not much. Queen d6 the computer likes. Not bringing the knight into d5. I guess just centralizing the queen. Yeah, he might change his mind and keep the dark square bishop. It says now bring the knight into d5. Yeah, and with this bishop surviving, c4 is less of an option for white because then this bishop will be attacking the pawn. So knight d5, he took on a8. Okay, so here maybe I should have played knight back to f6. But I thought that after bishop takes g7, king takes g7, queen c3, I didn't have anything. Because always this knight could be in a pin after d5. But still, the computer likes black a little bit. Maybe I go for more of a blockading plan. So I played knight b4. We got a trade, queen c3. I had to take on c2. And I said it was like 0.00. Maybe black does have a little something. The computer seems to think so. If I had to choose, I would take black with the pressure on d4 and white not being able to attack my weaknesses very easily. I was surprised by the way he played it with h4, h5, but maybe it's not so bad. Computer says it's okay. Take and then queen e2, giving me this option between rook takes d4 and queen takes b3. If rook takes d4 and then take queen takes... Oh yeah, that's actually what happened in the game, sorry. If queen takes b3, I thought after queen takes h5 I wasn't really in a position to play for a win because my king is so exposed and always white's threatening queen g5. And I can't stop that with f6 because queen g6 is a disaster. So, I mean, this puts me at a little bit of a practical impasse because I'm up a pawn. I feel like I should have winning chances, but my king being open, with h5 they did open up the g-file. My king being exposed is a problem for the rest of the game. So I think I made the right call taking here and letting him take b5.
Check.
Trying to weaken his king. As I mentioned, I mean, white can do something like this and then try to trade queens with queen g3, but that just should be a losing endgame because after like this, I get my king within the square of the pawn, and I have a protected pass pawn which can handle itself. So like white will do something like this, and I'm just going to win because I have this pawn in my sights, and this pawn's like always ready to sprint. So that's a winning pawn endgame for black. Queen f4, I gave a check here. King h2. I had h3 check. I didn't notice that I had that at this point. Point being that they can't take as a queen h1 mate, so they'd have to come here instead. Then king g6, stopping queen g5, I suppose. Still looks tough to win, though. Man, this is very similar to the game. Even if I somehow win this pawn for that pawn, 3 versus 2, all on the same side of the board, my king constantly exposed, and especially with the time advantage for him. That's the real big thing, is the time.
Check.
I tried my best as far as king activity goes, but...
Check.
Yeah, dwindling time.
Check.
Nevertheless, I mean, technically speaking, I'm not unhappy about how I played this. I think I did about the best I had with the resources available.
Check.
This was a key move, queen c5. Because if I don't have this move, I don't think I can defend my f5 pawn. Note that if I play queen d7 trying to defend it, there's queen d2 check followed by queen takes e5. That draws for white. So queen c5, point being that if they go here, then I have check, and no matter where the king goes, I can take that pawn on f3 with check, and that should be a win for black.
Check.
Although even that will be tough because my king is going to be subjected to many, many checks.
Check.
Yeah, and the rest is just a time scramble. Like I said, like if we had a little increment here, I like my chances to win. Sudden death with 20 seconds versus his 4 minutes, not so much. I'm probably lucky to escape with the draw, actually. Yeah, maybe he went wrong like right around here somewhere. Because he let my king get all the way in. And he constantly has to worry about the threat of a queen trade. So, like, you know, he can't check me on the second rank now, for instance, because of queen d2. That's why he played king h3. So what is where's the win? Queen e6, king g2, queen g6. Oh, and if he comes here... Oh, if he comes to f2, I can check
Check.
g3, king here, and I assume
Check.
check here. And if he goes to e1, I have queen d2 mate, so we'd have to do this.
Check.
Yeah, and this is a winning endgame, because I'm going to go and win this pawn. He can't defend that for much longer. For instance, something like this, we can just outflank. His king runs out of squares to defend the pawn. So, yeah, there might be some, like, checking sequence that, like, wins the game for me, but it's just so tough to find, right? King h1. I can play queen d3. And the engine just says I'm dead winning. But, yeah, not easy.
Check. 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 Check.
So,
check,
yeah, I
check,
mean, even though on
check.
paper I just, like, ended up... And I went for the draw at the end. I think it would be risky to do otherwise.
Check.
Even though king e3 was winning. But, yeah, even though on paper it looks like a bad result, I'm okay with my technique in this one. It's just a function of the time control and such. And, I don't know. There's not a whole lot else, like, just move-wise that I would do different. I just wish I had a little bit more time to execute the position. So maybe I would have had to move faster in some stage of the game. So, all right. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.